one day we was out on the fens, and it was blowing a gale. The rain was coming in sideways. I was in a foul mood because the weather was shocking, and the hounds went in a crop of sugar beet 2 fields over, and this Chinese water deer ran out and jumped over a fen drain and started running towards me, and I'm thinking, geez, this is going to run at me. And by the time it got to me, it was within 30, 40 yards of me, and I slipped hurling at it. And I don't know what it was that day, but he thought, right, I'm having that. And he flew it, grabbed hold of it, and pulled it over.
Hey, how's it going, everyone? Welcome back for another episode of the Falconry Told podcast, and what is now our 17th and final installment of our series featuring Falconers from the UK. And I have to give one quick final shout out and very, very big thank you to the 2 Falconers who made this series possible, being Simon Tyers and Neil Davies. Without them, I wouldn't have been able to afford to come over and do this series for you all. I hope you all have really enjoyed it, and I really hope that you continue to stick with us for our future journeys. And as you may have heard me previously mention on the last episode, these last couple of episodes unfortunately had to be recorded remotely due to different time and logistical constraints, but I was very happy to still be able to coordinate this with John Mease, and I really am glad to be able to get his story out to you all. It's a pretty fascinating story because he's actually a falconer who is employed to fly his golden eagles over in the UK, and it was really kind of cool hearing how he kind of came into that position and hear about his story and getting into falconry in general. So all that being said, I'm very happy to be able to share with you John Mease, and hope you all like this last episode concluding our UK series. And hopefully there will be a part 2 eventually, but for now, I will leave this with you and enjoy. Here we go. What's the scenery and the elements look like for you all over there around this time?
So when I first started with the Eagle back in 2004, at my present place, we used to get cold, crisp winters, and plenty of frosty weather, and nice and crisp. And it's gradually changed over the years to wet and foggy and horrible. So it makes life difficult when it's like that, because your bird just gets waterlogged and one flight and it's soaked through, and it's a nightmare. Everything's muddied up to the ears, and it makes it hard work walking across the fields and stuff. So obviously being a species that's evolved for living on the side of a mountain, they're pretty waterproof and resilient to it. Mm-hmm. But like any bird, they still get soaked through. And if you catch something with them, they're mantled and their tails fanned out, and they're caked up to the ears with mud and clay and you name it. Especially if it's something that's going to put up a bit of a fight, like a fox or something, they soon get filthy. It's not unusual for me to come home from a day's hunting and put a block perch in the shower and shower my eagles before sitting in the front room with them for the night drying out. So
you must have a big shower then.
No, just leave the hood on. I'll send you a picture. Leave the hood on and just shower them off and get all the ingrained mud out of them. And because they on certain days when it's been really wet, it's horrendous. But you can guarantee if it's a really wet, horrible day, that'll be the day that I end up with a fox or a muntjac deer, and they end up getting pulled through everything with them, and they put up a scrap. They don't want to end up dead, so they put up a fight. So and obviously the eagle's plumage suffers for it. So
I imagine. So yeah, it sounds pretty typical then. So no exception with them. I mean, and in the videos that I've seen as well, from other friends that regularly hunt eagles, and so it's more out west, also where it's more dry, and I was just curious about that. I figured that's probably the case, but I don't know near as much about eagles as I do, some of these other hawks.
Their plumage is really tough, but like I say, when you're dealing with eagles, you're dealing with eagle quarry as well, and that puts up a scrap. And it's yeah.
I was gonna say that's the thing too. Is over here, most of the people that fly eagles hunt jackrabbits and stuff. They don't hunt fox and coyote and stuff near as readily, or
So it's But I hunt brown hare, fox, which is what I'm employed to do. That's my job. I work for a hunt, so I'm actually employed to catch foxes. But I hunt brown hare, fox, muntjac deer, and hopefully once I get her tuned in a bit more, I'll be hunting roe deer as well. But last September I inherited a female eagle called Axel that I've been working with for a year now, and she's just. I actually caught her first fox with me last Saturday. So yeah, she caught a 26-pound dog fox on Saturday, which was nice. That was it makes all the hard work worth it when it all comes together like that, and you get some results out of it. So, yeah.
It's anytime you get any kind of secondhand bird and you have to work through any kind of issue that has already kind of been ingrained with. I just went through that this past season with a Harris hawk as well, and never again. I don't think it's for me. Some people just love that process of working through the extra challenge of. It's not for me. Not for me.
when you've been doing it a long time, like I have, it's one of those things. It makes you use your brain again, because you get used to doing your routine with your regular bird, and you're constantly doing the same thing. So when you get a new one come in, and I never ever expected or thought about getting another eagle. I just thought it was going to be me and Erlen until that's it. And then this one came up. Unfortunately, the guy that owned her passed away, and I ended up inheriting her. And I ummed and ahed about it for a long time before I actually agreed to take it on. And she's quirky. She's got some quirks, but now I've ironed those out and I know what they are. She's lovely. I'm getting on great with her. But my shoulder and my bicep not so great. But there's a definite difference between a female and a male.
Imagine. I imagine. Well, out of curiosity, what were some of the quirks that you had to work through, and how did you work through them then?
So just basically doing something wrong and then seeing a reaction to it. It's like I called her into the glove. I fly all my eagles to the glove. I don't like all this throwing stuff on the floor. It's bad enough your eagles being on the floor when they catch something, let alone having them on the floor to pick them up. So I fly all my eagles into the glove. So to start with, I didn't know how she was trained or what she'd flown. I'd heard that she'd been flown waiting on because she was being flown in the Brecon Beacons in Wales. So I knew that she was flown waiting on. So I've basically had to retrain her to flying out of the hood, because where I am in East Anglia, there's footpaths and people walking where they shouldn't be with little dogs and God knows what. So all of my hunting's done with the hood on. So the hood comes off and away they go. So it was basically just working with her. So, I mean, the first time I called her into the glove, I used quite a big pickup piece. I always fly my male into the back leg of a hare or front leg of a hare as a pickup piece and a recall piece. So I did that with her, and it was full dragon mode, crown up, wings out, and she was like, "This is mine, and you're not having it." And tried it with a smaller piece, and we were fine. And she's been lovely since. She's not been too bad. I mean, she's had a few tantrums, but nothing that's not workable. So we're doing all right. We're doing great with her.
Well, it sounds like you didn't inherit too bad of a situation then.
No. I mean, like I say, she's quirky. She's she gives you the sideways look sometimes, and you're like, well, don't go any further with that
Yeah.
process. And you kind of, when you've been around eagles a long time, you kind of get to read them. You get to know what they're thinking before they actually do it. Well, I do anyway. I don't know about anybody else, but I can kind of read them pretty well. So.
It's the trick to flying any species is learning their quirks, I think.
Yeah.
I mean, it doesn't matter what the species is, or it doesn't matter. Every bird is different, and learning their quirks is just part of it. If you don't learn how the bird is, then odds are you're not going to be quite as successful with them as you would have been if you learn how to read your bird. So
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And it's one of those things. It's every day's a school day. It doesn't matter how long you've been doing it. You learn something new every single day with them. So it keeps it fresh. It keeps it from turning stale. You see something different I mean, Erlen, my male's 21 this year, and he still surprises me with some of the things that he does. And we can have hunted the same ground for the last 19 seasons, 20 seasons, and we'll go another on that ground, and then he'll pull something out of the bag that I've never seen before, and it's like, wow, where does that come from? It's every day's a learning day, so all good.
Sure. Well, and there's always all kinds of different, the environmental factors that you've listed, and learning kind of how your bird's going to react to some kind of weird unforeseen circumstance that you haven't encountered yet, or whatever. Yeah. Every day is different. Every bird's different.
Yeah.
It's all a constant learning process, like you said. But yeah, no, I mean, out of curiosity then, since we didn't have a chance to talk very much since everything was kind of crazy at the Valley Expo, and I didn't even get a chance to see you at the game fair, go ahead and just talk a little bit more about how you got into all this and how the falconry bug bit you and all that.
Right. So, right from an early age. So, my mum always describes me as being feral. She'd get up in the morning, and I'd already be out. School holidays and stuff. I'd be out before light and be out bird nesting and catching frogs and you name it. I'd be out there, and I used to collect all sorts of things underneath my bed. I got my ass kicked so many times for collecting bits and bobs and putting them under my bed, and my mum would come in, and like my bedroom would smell a little bit funny, and she'd be like, what on earth? And then she'd find a hedgehog or something that I'd collected under the bed. And a terrible collector of animals. I used to collect everything. So I was just one of those kids that was never in the house, always out fishing and doing something, out in the countryside. So and I was out one day, and I found a sparrowhawk fledgling that had either fallen out of its tree or was having a rough time. So picked him up, put him in my coat straight away, got all 8 talons in my belly, took it home. And like back then, I'm still completely useless with technology. So the internet didn't exist back then, but even if it had done, I'd have been useless with it. So I'd got this young sparrowhawk. It was just getting its pin feathers. It got half an inch of tail and stuff. So I went to the library and got a book called Falconry and Hawking by Philip Glazier, and that was basically my introduction to falconry. Before that, I'd seen it on TV and I knew about it, but never hadn't got a clue about it at all. Anyway, I read this book from cover to cover and went through everything and did everything that the book said. Got the pattern out of the book and sized it to make a hood. I cut one of my mum's best handbags up to get the leather for my jesses and the hood. Got my ass kicked for that as well. And then sort of turned it into a career somehow, and I've been doing it ever since. I went on to fly that sparrowhawk, had it flying free for 2 weeks and promptly lost it. But that was it. I was bitten. So I would have been 13, 14 at the time. I've still got the hood that I made out of my mum's handbag. I'm absolutely heartbroken at my sparrowhawk disappearing. But one of those, I'd got a cat bell off a cat's collar on its leg because I couldn't get hawking bells and stuff. And then one of my first jobs was working for a company called Falco Bird Control with a guy called Alan Cass, doing landfill sites, bird clearance on landfill sites and bird abatement. And it just snowballed from there, really. Where I grew up, I always wanted to be a gamekeeper. And I grew up with a gamekeeper quite local to me. And I used to spend all my time with him shooting and God knows what, doing the pheasants and different bits and bobs. But my falconry just took over. So, and that was it. And once I was bitten by it, that was it. And I've kind of travelled the length and breadth of England and doing it. I've been doing it ever since. It's been tough. It's not an easy career path to take, but it's one of those I can't imagine myself doing anything else. Yeah, that was a long time ago. I've worked at Whipsnade Zoo and Woburn Safari Park, and then up in North Yorkshire doing hunting days with the Goshawks and different bits and bobs. And then this job that I work at now came up, working for a fox hunt. So in this country, the way the law's written, you can use 2 dogs to flush a wild mammal to a gun, or you can use as many dogs as you like to flush a wild mammal to a bird of prey. And when it first came up, I ummed and ahed about taking the job and shouldn't I? There was a hell of a lot of controversy over it when it first came out, and I was in 2 minds whether to take the job or not. And then I thought, well, if I don't take the job, they're going to just get somebody to do it that hasn't got a clue what they're doing, and it's going to look bad on falconry. So let's do a proper job of it, and see what we can do with it. And basically, all I've done is gone back 1,000 years to when all falconry was done in conjunction with a pack of dogs, a pack of hounds, and it works. I mean, as long as you know what you're doing and you're careful and you can read the hounds, when it's a good time to slip or not to slip. And I think my male eagle's probably one of the most successful eagles around that's taken, a lot of foxes. And it's not for the faint-hearted, but he knows his job. So it's all good. But,
well, before we jump into that, I'm just kind of curious. First I have to ask one basic question, which is, whenever you got a little bit older and you started getting some income, were you nice enough to buy your mom a new handbag at least?
That's where the bonus comes, because teaching myself. I mean, I think it was 1990. A magazine came out called the Falconers magazine, and by this point, I was well and truly hooked with the whole falconry thing. Never thought that I'd be doing it as a lifelong career. And I opened I managed to get one of these magazines, and I think it was at the first falconry fair that was on. I subscribed to the magazine, and I got my first 1990 copy of this magazine. And in the front cover, there was a photograph of 3 hoods on a pedestal that were made by Ben Long. And I was just in awe. I was just like, wow, look at those. And that was me hooked. So I went and got a load of leather working tools and some leather and stuff, and started making hoods. And over the years, I've got good enough to actually sell them. So that's another string to my bow, where I make a bit of income from making hoods and stuff. So I do it, and I do a lot of leather work. So I actually made my mum a new handbag. So yeah.
Oh, you went the ultra cheap route then. Like you use. She probably would end up liking that more though, because you made it, right?
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, that's it.
But I mean, so she didn't look at it and want to automatically kick your ass again. It's like, this wasn't up to spec, whatever.
Yeah, my mum's only like 5 foot tall, and she can still kick my ass today. So I just, I have to be careful.
Well, fair enough. Fair enough. Well, and before we launch into the whole, eagle and fox deal, I also just out of curiosity, I mean, did you fly any other species? I know you mentioned it, you flew the sparrowhawk and you flew some other stuff, but what else did you fly kind of throughout your years before you really got hooked into eagles?
I suppose my foundation for eagle falconry was flying a female redtail for 9 seasons when I was a kid. I got a redtail and did 9 seasons with her. Had more trips to A&E with that bird than I've ever had flying goldies. She was a tenacious character. 14 stitches in my eyelid and my ear stitched back together, and so and that was basically my kind of my grounding. And then I've flown for hunting birds. I've flown Harrises and Goshawks and stuff. But working at the zoos and whatnot, I've flown other eagles. I've flown bald eagles, and I've flown some goldies working at centres and stuff. But never getting out there and doing it properly. And my grassroots are hunting, so it's always been my thing, And I had a female Harris hawk that I went and picked up from Cornwall. Travelled all the way from Cambridgeshire to Cornwall to pick her up, and I'd had her for a couple of days, and she broke her leg. And before I could get her to the vets, she died from internal bleeding because the bone had broken and cut her somehow inside, and she was dead the next morning before I managed to get to the vets. So I rang up the guy that I got her from, and he said, "Come back down." He said, "I've got another one here." He said, "Come and get her, and you can take her." So I made the trip all the way back down to Cornwall. It was like 6 or 7 hours from where I am. And I got there, and the guy that I bought her from, he's only got one eye. And he's a lovely, lovely guy, real character. And he said, "There you go, have a look in there." And I looked through the peephole in the aviary, and I said, "I'm sure that's a male." And he went, No, it's a female." Anyway, we went in and caught it up, and sure enough, it was a male. And it was the tiniest, weediest little male Harris hawk you've ever seen in your life. He went, "Take that one." He said, "And I'll breed you another female next season." So I begrudgingly took this male Harris hawk, and I called him Fluke because it was a fluke that I ended up getting him, and he turned out to be one of the best hunting hawks that I've ever had. And he'd take partridge, 1 pound, 3.5 ounces he used to fly at. And I took a brown hare that was a 9 pound brown hare with him as well. Obviously, I was running like hell when he flew it. I was like, "Oh shit, we better run like hell to get in and help him." But and that's been my thing with all my birds. Whatever they take on, I've always been there and made sure that they know I've got their back. Uh-huh. So they'll take on the world for me, and it's the same with my eagles. They'll take on anything for me because they know that I'm there backing them up when they've got the rough end of it. So, and I think that's a big deal with the whole eagle falconer relationship. You've got to make sure that you're on your toes and running across that field as fast as you can to get in to help them once they've caught what you've slipped them at. So hares are not so bad with an eagle. Obviously, you don't have to run so fast with a hare, but foxes and deer you do. So.
It's funny how tenacious some of these birds get whenever they do have that confidence,
Yeah, they're amazing. They, it's that mindset. Once you get them trained and you get them to know that you've got their back, and they'll take on the world for you. Mm-hmm. And it's you see a lot of guys that are a bit rough with their eagles, and they're like they don't seem to have that. I don't know. That's that same relationship that I've got with my eagle. It's I know my eagle will give his all for me, and the same with this female I'm working on. She's coming round to that kind of process as well. But it's a long journey with an eagle. It's not a race. It's a marathon with an eagle. So it's a long thing. But like I say, I've been flying my male now for 19 seasons. So it's part of my life. It's more than just a job. It's my whole way of life.
Yeah.
So it's just nice that I can earn a living, well, kind of earn a living, doing it.
Well, I'm if you were flying an imprint red tail before, and already was used to getting footed in all kinds of fun different places, by an imprint red tail or whatever, then I'm sure that was plenty of good practice for whatever.
Yeah. But I mean, you hear all these horror stories about eagles being footy and grabbing people, and I've not found that with any of some of the eagles that I've not trained. Working at the zoos and falconry centres that I've worked at, they've been handed around and passed from pillar to post, and they can be a bit grabby. But with my own birds, they soon grow out of it. They don't go that way for long. Don't ask me how, but I seem to have a way of not getting that the nasty side coming at me. So which is nice. It's a hard one to explain. I mean, I've had quite a few people comment on what I do, and they're like, it's so. Watching you with your eagles, it's an instinctive thing. It's almost like it's second nature. So when I actually try to explain what I do with them, it's like I don't know. I just do it. It's just such a natural thing for me to do with them. It's a bit like a duck to water, really. It's a nice way to be, though.
Yeah, I imagine. If you already are. I mean, some people just really are kind of, I think, more prone to success with certain species than others.
Yeah.
So it's a mentality thing. I mean, there's plenty of guys that I know that just are wired to deal with accipiters. There's some guys that I know are more wired to deal with falcons. So, yeah, I mean, you just never know. But yeah, I mean, I can understand that.
Yeah. It's something that's always. Ever since I was a boy, I think eagles were always my thing, and it was ingrained in me then, and that was before I'd even held an eagle or seen an eagle in the flesh. Eagles were always my kind of go-to. I want to fly an eagle, and that was my sort of my thing that I wanted to do.
Mm-hmm.
So it's always been, and like I say, I'm really lucky in that I do it as a job, as well as a hobby, and it's just it all works out really, really well in that it's all rolled into one, and I get to do it like that.
Yeah, that's amazing, and I'm happy for you that you get to do that. But yeah, I mean, and I think that if you have this already kind of natural predisposition to already just really want to do one particular thing, you're going to have more patience and a lot more wherewithal to want to be successful with it. So you're going to, try and work through whatever challenges you have. I mean, some people just don't have the patience for certain species or certain things or whatever, because I mean, it's not what they're really super into, I don't think.
I love watching the guys, some of my friends, Jose and they fly long wings and stuff, and I call them pointy wings because they're always taking the mickey at the size of my bird's wings, but I call their birds pointy wings. So the guys that fly the pointy wings, I love watching, but I couldn't do it. It would drive me insane. It's everything in that equation has got to be absolutely in line. The planets have got to align to actually catch something with a falcon, and I love watching. And seeing other guys fly their falcons, but not for me. I've flown falcons in displays and stuff, but I've never hunted with one. Mm-hmm. It's just not been, it's not my thing.
I know exactly what you're saying. There's lots of guys I know that are the same way. I would fly more long wings if I lived in an area that was more conducive for it. It is what it is. But yeah, I mean, as far as kind of leading into this discussion though about your job and what you currently do, can you go into just a little bit of detail though about, because I know when I was over there, I was talking to some guys over there about a lot of the challenges that you guys do currently face, and with a lot of the regulations that you have, like you mentioned before, with with the hounds, and just being able to hunt certain species in certain settings and things like that. What were some of the initial challenges that you had kind of leading into all this?
Challenges. So I suppose from a falconer's point of view, a lot of the falconers didn't agree with me going and working for a pack of hounds, and there was a lot of talk of it bringing falconry into disrepute and giving falconry a bad name and everything. And I was like, look, guys, let's get the right people in to do these jobs, so that the job's done properly. Otherwise, it will get falconry a bad name because the wrong guys are going to be going out and getting eagles. That's one of the things in this country. If you've got the money, you can go out and buy a golden eagle. There's so many being bred that any Tom, Dick and Harry, if they've got the money, they'll go out and buy one. And some of the breeders will quite happily sell them to any Tom, Dick and Harry, which really, that's really wrong. That gripes me, because at the end of the day, the only thing that suffers for it is the bird. It is what it is. Mm-hmm. It's something I can't change. But the legislation in the UK is so lapsadaisical as far as having a bird of prey. There's so many people that have got the birds that shouldn't have, and I get it that they want part of the falconry that they see. Social media is great. It shows the greatest falconry in the greatest of lights, doesn't it? And it makes it look easy, and it makes it look all through rose tinted glasses. But it's not all like that. And they'll go out and buy a bird and then find out 6 months down the line that that's really not for them. Mm-hmm. And then there's another bird that's passed from pillar to post, and it's a shame, because, like I say, the thing that suffers is the bird. Mm-hmm. I'm not so keen on that. But everybody asks me, since I got this female eagle, everybody's asking, are you going to breed from them? And I'm like, no, not interested. Breeding's not something that has ever interested me. I want to hunt with my birds and fly them for what they are and see them do what they do. It's they're hunting birds, not breeding birds, and that's that.
No, that's understandable. Well, like I said, I'm just curious because, I've heard a lot of different things from, a lot of different guys since being over there in my very brief snapshot kind of, period of time that I was over there. And, like I said, that's one reason why I'm always interested talking to a variety of guys, even in a small country, or a small, like I said, I mean, everybody's experiences are different. So, I mean, all that being said, then how did you land this job? How did you even find out about it? How did you even?
So word of mouth, basically. It's a small circle in the UK, falconry, and I was working at Whipsnade Zoo, working for London Zoological Society, and that was always my sort of pinnacle. I always wanted to work for ZSL. And I got my job at London Whipsnade Zoo, and I thought, that's it, I'm set. I'm going to stay here and do my thing and be here forever. And then got to hear about this job back in Peterborough, which is the biggest town in Cambridgeshire, where I come from. So it was back in my home patch, and I knew the area and had grown up in the area and stuff. And I thought, do you know what? Let's have a look just to see what the job's all about. So I arranged an interview with the boss, Sir Philip, and went for an interview and talked to him about what I do and how I'd go about doing it. And the rest is history, as they say. I think there was 3 other people went for the job, and I was the lucky one that got it. So I've been there since 2004. So it's and flying the same eagle, like I say, 5-6 times a week ever since during the season, and then like I say, this year I've taken on another eagle, and been flying her as well. So juggling 2 eagles is fun. But
I can only imagine the amount of food you go through.
oh yeah, fair bit. But you know, it's one of those things when you've got one eagle that's going really well, that can feed both of them. So
well, so with this job, how much acreage do you have to hunt with this job? I mean, if you're hunting the same area, like almost for an entire week, I mean, do you have enough, there's enough game over these grounds that keeps you in enough flights for that?
I'm really lucky. I live on a 10,500 acre estate.
Oh, okay. That explains that. All right.
So I kind of divide it up. So when I'm not out with the hounds and I'm just doing falconry, I'll divide the estate up and I'll go to one block one week, one block the next week, and it gives each area a rest. And to be fair, when I'm out, I don't cause that much disturbance. I'm out looking for hares when I'm out just doing normal falconry, and I don't fly foxes or deer when I'm just out doing normal falconry. I'm flying hares, so I divide the estate up into blocks, and so that's my exercise ground, if you like. And then we obviously travel within the hunt country, and we go visiting to other farms and other areas, and cover an immense area of ground. And over the years, I've got to know it really well, so we visit other estates and shoots and stuff. So I've got no shortage of hunting ground. That's one thing I'm not short on. So
sounds like you landed in kind of like a falconry goldmine situation.
Yeah, it's good. As far as it goes, it's an amazing job, but it comes with its downsides. I mean, working for the hunt, you get the flack from the hunt saboteurs and the anti-hunting brigade, and once your face is known and they find out stuff about you and your name's known, they give you flack. And social media is a great platform for shouting a lot of untruths and stuff and garbage out there. But you've got to sort of let it roll and water off a duck's back kind of thing. But those guys don't like me much because I keep the tradition of the old English hunt going. So I keep it legal because they're flushing to a bird of prey. So I'm kind of the loophole in the law that they left in, that the hunts picked up on and have taken it on. But like I say, it can be done. It's just that you've got to dedicate an awful lot to it to be able to do it properly and make sure that your eagles are safe and falconry is safe. Falconry is my life. It's been my life since, like I say, since that first sparrowhawk that I found, and it's my whole life revolves around falconry. My friends and what I do and where I go is all falconry. It's an obsessive thing. Once it gets under your skin, it kind of takes over.
Sure. Yeah. And I mean, yeah, I can see where there'd be some downsides with that type of job too. I mean, if you're expected to do that, you probably don't have very many days off or very much free time to do much else. And
you kind of live on the job.
Yeah. And I can only imagine. I mean, it sounds like you've been fortunate though in a lot of other ways, because I know whenever I did the podcast episode with Ronnie, Ronnie Moore, he was talking about, and he was talking about flying the same eagle for almost 30 years. And I mean,
see,
it astounds me because, like, granted, if you are going to fly a species for a length of, I mean, I can see where that would, be probably one of the species that you'd be able to do that because, the size and you're not having to, deal with a lot of the same types of hazards that you would with a lot of other,
Funny thing, because it's like when I was a boy, Ronnie Moore was one of my idols. I used to see articles that he'd done in Falconers magazines and books and stuff. I never dreamt that one day that I'd be in a position to be flying my own eagles and doing what Ronnie did, and it's kind of going the same way. It's like I say, I'm in my 20th year with Erlen now, and it's kind of looking, fingers crossed, hopefully, I'll be flying Erlen well into his 30s and 40s, however long he lasts, or me. It's probably going to be me that falls over first, to be fair, the way I feel at the moment. But it's
if it hadn't happened yet, I mean, I don't know. We'll keep our fingers crossed for you, but I mean, and the thing is about it too is it's not like you're hunting something that's not dangerous or could potentially, debilitate your bird or whatever. I mean, you're being in a situation where you're flying a bird for that long on something that's that potentially dangerous to and not had any major hiccups. I mean, that's pretty incredible.
Yeah, it's and I put it down to me being quick, getting in and helping him when he's on a kill. It's you've got seconds basically to assess whether it's a safe slip or not, and when he's got hold of that fox, I get there within seconds, as quick as I can, and dispatch the fox and get it under control so that the risks are limited. But there's risks with flying any of the birds, power cables and wire fences and traffic and like this little island now that I live on. There's so many people on it. It's a nightmare. It doesn't matter which direction you look in. There seems to be somebody standing there with, there's risks everywhere. So you've got to be as vigilant as you can and kind of assess things within seconds before you slip that hood off and let the bird go. So, like I say, I've made some great friends through my work, and I wouldn't have it any other way. And it's my complete life, which I don't know. It's as obsessive as it is. It's worked out well.
Yes, sounds like it. Sounds like you're doing pretty good.
Poor in every other way other than falconry, but money's overrated, isn't it? So
it definitely can be. It fixes a lot of woes, but it can also be pretty overrated too. I've learned that the hard way over the years myself. But so I mean, take us through your typical day then, getting ready for prep and doing this job.
So basically, I live on the job, so I live on the estate where I work. So basically, fall out of bed, straight into the garden where my eagles live, if they're not downstairs. I've got a screen perch at the bottom of the stairs where I put them. If I've had a particularly wet and horrible day, I'll put them on the screen at the bottom of the stairs until they're dry and stuff. But so yeah, straight out into the garden, into the weighing room and prep food for the day, which hare, muntjac, or day-old chick, whatever I'm flying them to on that particular day. I use an awful lot of muntjac deer and fox and hare, because that's the main three things that I catch. And I'm a great believer in you get in what you get out what you put in. So if you're putting in poor quality food, you get a poor quality performance out of them. If you put nice rich food in, you get a good performance out of them. So I'm a great believer in that. So I get all my food prepped and everything. Depending on where I'm hunting and what I'm doing, I'll weigh. It's all changed this year because it's 2 eagles now as opposed to 1. But I'll go in, get my eagle, hood him, bring him out, put him on the scales, weigh him, and go and put him in the back of the truck. I've got a double transport box in the back of the truck where I put both of them, and then travel off to wherever I'm hunting. On a hunting day, I use a quad bike as opposed to a horse. I can ride a horse. I grow up with horses and stuff, but the buggers don't stay where you put them when you jump off to sort out an eagle that's wrestling with a fox. So I use a quad bike, and so I hitch the quad bike up and off we go. And then once we're out in the field, that's the hounds will go in one end of the cover, and I'll position myself, depending on where we are, in a safe position away from the cover, but where I think the fox will run or the quarry will run. And I could be 2 fields away from where they're drawing to push to me. So I always try and stay in front of where the hounds are drawing. So I've got a good distance between us, which gives me that time to be able to assess whether or not it's going to be a safe slip or not. Because the last thing I want is to get tangled up with the hounds with my eagle. So I keep a safe distance between us. The rest is history, as they say. It works. So, I can go 7, 8, 9, 10 slips in a day, hares and stuff. Because my eagles are flown every day, they're fit enough to be able to do that and put in some amazing flying. Don't catch much as it goes. I'm successful with an eagle, but the amount of slips that are unsuccessful are some of the most spectacular, because the hares will jump and outmaneuver the eagles. And brown hares, I love them. Although I hunt them, this is another thing that the guys that don't hunt don't get. They can't understand how I can love an animal as much and then hunt it. They don't. It's the same with foxes. I've got the greatest admiration for foxes and deer and everything, because they are, although they're my quarry that I hunt, they are the most amazing animals that are out there, because they can pull off a maneuver that can outmaneuver a golden eagle. And these eagles are fit. They're not couch potato eagles. These things are fit. When you see a hare jump an eagle, it doesn't matter how many times you see it. It's just like, wow, look at that. It's amazing to see. You take your hat off, tip your hat to them, and thank you very much, sir, and off they go. And hopefully bump into them another day for the same. But we're successful. We catch enough. I don't want to go out there and catch everything with every slip that I have, because otherwise it'd be boring and everybody would be doing it. And
sure.
But it's one of those things. I love the quarry that I hunt as much as I love my eagles, and that's always a hard thing to get across to people that don't hunt or don't understand what I do or how I feel about the animals that But it's the whole thing. It's like I look after the estate that I live on as well, and I put nest boxes up for the owls and kestrels and stuff like that. And it's that biggest picture, isn't it? It's that big circle. Although I hunt, you've got to look after your environment that you're hunting, and make sure that there's habitat there for everything, as well as the animals that are your quarry, and respect what you're doing.
Sure. Yeah. And I mean, you have to have some degree of a decent amount of success. Otherwise you'd be poor, because you'd be buying a whole lot of food for your birds. But, I mean, out of curiosity, as far as the type of guys, so do they have, I'm assuming they have a pretty steady clientele base that's coming in and wanting to observe these hunts and stuff, or like be a part of these? And
they've got a subscription that they subscribe to, and they join the hunt, and they come out with their horses and ride. I've been there that long now. I'm part of the furniture, so they all know me, and they love seeing the eagle flying and stuff when they get the chance. I caught my female eagle actually caught her first fox with me on Saturday, and it was in front of the whole field of horses. And so they all got to see her in action and catch the fox, and they were all amazed by it when they saw it. A lot of the time, you see, I'm a good distance away, but this one time, they happened to be in the same field. The hounds were further on, a long way off, but this fox ran in the right direction for them to get a grandstand view of what was going on. So
nice. Well, and I've never seen this in person, and I've not even hardly seen very many videos of this in person too. Just describe the process of setting up the slip of coordinating a hunt for a fox then?
So basically, well, when I'm out with the hounds will go into a wood, into a cover, and work the cover through. And I'll try and position myself in a place where I think the fox will run. And obviously, doing it for as long as I've been doing it, you get to know where they're going to run over the years, and you can kind of preempt where you might get a slip. And then you just sit quietly, tuck yourself up along a hedgerow, and sit quietly and wait. And if one decides to run in your direction, the hood comes off and away it goes. And then you hope for the best, and hopefully they catch it. And get in quick and help them, give them a good reward for it, and that's basically it. It's pretty simple. It's not rocket science.
Yeah, I mean it seems easier whenever you describe it, but I'm sure seeing it for the first time in person, it's one of those things that probably it would seem probably a little bit more complex, I'm sure.
Yeah, probably. I don't know how else to explain it.
Yeah,
it's like I say, every place we hunt has its own challenges and its own. There might be a road on one side where I can't fly, or there might be power cables or something crazy going on over the other side of the field, so I'll avoid that. And so the place where I'll position myself depends a lot on the day as well, on what's going on and who's out, and stuff like that. On a normal day's hunting, when I'm out just with the eagle, I just walk the fields, searching for hares, and kick hares up out of the fields. When I say kick, I don't literally kick them up. You walk the field and the hares will get up.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And then the hood comes off, and you get a great spectacle of seeing the eagle's tail chasing. A bit like the jackrabbits over in the States, I suppose. I think you get to see some spectacular flying on hares. Out of everything, if I weren't doing this for a job, I wouldn't fly foxes. It's only the fact that I do it for a job that I fly foxes. Out of everything that I fly, the hares are the most sporting, and the most difficult to catch because they're so agile and athletic, maneuverable. And then they've got this built-in instinct of how to evade a bird of prey, and that they can sidestep and jinx and jump, and they're spectacular, amazing creatures.
Yeah, my favorite move to watch is whenever they just stop.
Oh, they stop.
They literally just stop and sit there, and then they just wait and waiting for that bird to come in, and then as soon as that bird starts almost to him, they just take off again, and then you're like, oh, I almost got in, but the more you see, you're like, no, they actually aren't almost getting it. The rabbits or the hares are doing that on purpose.
Yeah. And brown hares can make a really good eagle look useless.
Sure.
They can really pull out some moves, and make a really good eagle look like it's never flown a hare before in its life. And that's part of the attraction of it. It's not an easy thing to do. And we're not talking about these 30-yard slips either. We're talking long slips. I mean, they're where I am in Cambridgeshire, the fields are huge. And some of these flights can go across 100-acre field and end in failure right at the end of it, but the spectacle of seeing that flight is what it's all about. It's not all about the catching and the kill at the end of it, although you do want to be successful, because obviously you don't want your bird getting upset at the fact that it's not being successful. So a little bit of success is always, success grows success, doesn't it? So you want to be successful, but at the same time you see some spectacular flying when then they're not as successful.
Sure.
But like I say, in my country where I am, it's very flat and wide open spaces. I kind of border right on the edge of the fens, which is as flat as I don't know what you'd have the equivalent of out there, maybe on the prairies or something, but it's as flat can be, and you can see for miles, with big open fields, and it's great hare country. And then on the other side of where I hunt, it's quite hilly and undulating, gentle hills, not big hills by any standard. There's nothing around here that would allow me to fly my eagles on the soar. Like I say, I'm in quite a populated area, so you can never be too sure where somebody's walking their chihuahua. So flying on the soar is not a good idea. So
right. Yeah, I can imagine. Well, on average, how many hounds do you hunt with whenever you're doing some of these hunts then?
I think 24 and a half couple. So what's that? 24
times 2, 48?
48, 49. So yeah, 50 hounds.
Wow.
And then there can be, depending on the day and what time of year it is. I mean, Christmas time is always a busy time of the year for the hunt. So there could be anything up to 80 to 100 horses out as well.
Oh my God.
So it's chaos. It can be chaos. And then you'll get the horses that don't like the look of the eagle or the look of the quad, so you're avoiding them. And, hence the reason I stay up front and try and keep out of the way, and let things run to me. It's one of those. It's a like I said, I've been doing it so long now. It kind of runs like clockwork. But like you say, I suppose it's not as easy if you actually saw it in the flesh. But it's quite a thing to see when you get all the horses out and they're all dressed up to the nines and going out trying to break their necks on horseback.
Oh, geez. I can't imagine. How is there any coordination to that whatsoever?
So I'm in contact with the huntsman on a radio, so he'll tell me when something's coming my way.
Oh my God.
So I have got a radio, so he gives me a heads up if he thinks something's running in my direction. So, but it's all to do with the Hunting Act and the ban on hunting with dogs. I never dreamt that one day I'd be working for the hunt. One of my first jobs when I left school was working in a stable yard. As I say, I can ride. And one of my mum's good friends gave me a job, and I was actually looking after one of the master's horses of the hunt that I worked for at the time. So, and that was back when I was 16, 17 years old, So didn't do it for long because horses are not my vocation. But it's crazy how things turn around. And
I'm just trying to visualize it because I've been on hunts before with guys, 4 to 6 dogs, and that's organized chaos sometimes in and of itself.
It's amazing to watch. The huntsman knows every single one of those hounds by name, and if he calls that name, that hound will come to him, and he knows every single one. They are better behaved than a lot of people's pet dogs. It's amazing to see.
They would have to be.
It's a skill in itself watching the huntsman with his hounds, it's a lot of brains you've got to keep in check, all at the same time, and they are completely loyal to the huntsman, and they know their job, and it all works. Alongside that, they drag a trail as well, so they'll lay an artificial scent as well on days when not a lot's going on and it's quiet. They'll actually lay a trail, and they'll do some trail hunting, and that sparks the hounds up, and they're in full cry, which also works in my favour, because once the hounds spark up and start speaking, they call it speaking or singing, and they call it hound music when the hounds start, and that will very often flush something out of cover. And if I'm in the right spot at the right time, I'll very often get a slip when that happens as well. So it all works in favour of falconry. Like I say, I'm doing nothing different to what they used to do 1,000 years ago.
Sure.
When all falconry was done in conjunction with God knows how many horses and dogs of all types and descriptions. And yeah, it's quite a thing to see. If you ever get the chance to come over and have a look.
I'd love to. I mean, there's so many things that I still want to do, and I definitely want to get back over there sometime and see some more stuff. But I mean, yeah, I mean, a week and a half just isn't,
Enough.
I mean, yeah, it's not enough, But,
I don't think, to be fair, in falconry, I don't think a lifetime's long enough to be able to fit everything.
Probably not.
That falconry has to offer. I've been really lucky in working with lots of different species and different falconry centres and zoos and safari parks and stuff. I've been really lucky in working with different birds and stuff, and it's given me my foundation for what I'm doing now. Like I say, it's been a good journey. So like I say, I mean, I make all my own gloves, I make all my own hoods, I make my own jesses and equipment for my eagles and stuff. Completely self-sufficient, to be fair. I don't buy equipment, or very, very rarely. If I go to a falconry fair and I see something that's really nice, I'll buy it from a little collection. I've got a little collection of hoods and stuff from different people. Mm-hmm. But the majority of stuff that I've got is all made by me. It's kind of that full circle of, I don't know, I fly my birds, I make all my own kit, and I catch my own dinner. It's that full circle, so it's all good.
It's awesome. That's awesome. I mean, that is something that I did notice. It seems like a lot of you guys over there are a lot more self-sufficient in those ways. I mean, a lot of us over here are too, but I mean, and then there's also a lot of guys that'll make, some of the more basic equipment for themselves and things like that, but some of the more advanced stuff and, the hoods and things like that, especially, yeah, that's not a skill set that a lot of people seem to have as much, anymore. So
it's a road to insanity, hood making.
Yeah.
It's one of those things, I mean, I've been doing it since, like I say, 13, 14 years old, going back to my mum's handbag and cutting that up to make my first hood. And I think hood makers are always chasing perfection. And they'll make one that's almost there, and they'll tweak it and make it a little bit more and tweak it a little bit more. And I don't think I know a hood maker, even some of the great names in hood making, I don't think any of them, if they were to speak truthfully, are ever happy with the blocks they've made or the hood they've made. The next one's going to be better, or the next pattern will be better than that one, and it'll, and I think it's that's ever, you're forever chasing perfection with hood making. And I know I certainly am. And I look at some of my earlier hoods now and think, geez, they're a mess. My eagle hoods now, I've got a good reputation with my eagle hoods, and a lot of the eagle guys in this country, I'm quite proud that they all wear John Mease hood. So they a lot of people wear them for hunting, and I've basically took a Kazakh. An original Kazakh pattern and tweaked it to my own design. So it's in all sense and purposes a Kazakh slip-on hood, but it's been tweaked and it's still being tweaked. I mean, I change it every year and do little things to it to make it a better fit or a better look or a better finish, and you're constantly chasing that with the leather work and stuff. So it's a nice thing to do in the off season when I'm not hunting the eagles and everything's quieting down a bit.
Sure.
I have guys ringing me up this time of year. Can you make me a hood? I've lost my hood, or I trod on my hood, or I sat on my hood. Any chance you can make me one? And I'm like, not a chance. Bring me back in March. And it's like, especially and even more so now I'm flying two eagles. It's from dawn till dusk falconry at the moment, which is a great problem to have, but doesn't put food on the table as such. But in other ways, it does.
Yeah, no, I can imagine. Well, I mean, I guess this would be a good time to go ahead and get at least one good story out of you. I can't imagine you wouldn't have had at least one in the last,
Oh God,
couple few decades or whatever. But especially flying the same areas for the last 18 years with the same bird. I mean, I'm sure you've got several, but everyone seems to always have at least one or two that stick out in their mind.
yeah. Wow. Where do I start with that one? I mean, my male eagle, he's not huge. He's not a big eagle. He flies at 7.5 pounds. Um, but he's got a heart like a lion. And I get a lot of Chinese water deer over here as well, which don't grow antlers and they look like a teddy bear. Trying to give a picture over to the listeners because they probably haven't got a clue what I'm talking about. But these Chinese water deer, they've got great big fluffy ears, a big fluffy face, and a fluffy body. They just look like a teddy bear, but they've got these horrendous tusks, and they're like a saber tooth deer. They literally have these tusks that can be like 2-3 inches long. And I've seen them so many times, and I've flown my eagle at them. He'll catch muntjac deer regularly, but he'll get behind these Chinese water deer, look at them and go, no chance, and he'll bank off, and I can't blame him for that. These things have got teeth. And one day we was out on the fens, and it was blowing a gale. The rain was coming in sideways. I was in a foul mood because the weather was shocking, and the hounds went in a crop of sugar beet 2 fields over, and this Chinese water deer ran out and jumped over a fen drain, and these drains are huge. They're deep, like they're almost like a river, deep rivers, and these drains, and it jumped over one of these drains straight over into the field I was in. And it started running towards me, and I'm thinking, geez, this is going to run at me. And by the time it got to me, it was within 30, 40 yards of me, and I slipped hurling at it. And I don't know what it was that day, but he thought, right, I'm having that. And he flew it, grabbed hold of it, and pulled it over. And I'm running like hell, covered. Like by the time I got to him, I must have been about 6 inches taller than I started because the mud was so sticky and affectionate, it was just clogged on my boots. And I still don't know how, to this day, how I got to him on time and helped him out with it. And that was a 63-pound Chinese water deer. And it had got tusks that were 2.5-3 inches long. And he got it, and I was like a dog with 2 tails for the rest of the season. That made my season. And it's there's so many different stories. I done a falconry event up at the at Jemima's Falconry Centre before it closed. It was one of the last falconry shows that she done, and I'd gone there exhibiting with my hoods and stuff. And they asked if I'd do a talk on my hood making and stuff, and I was like, yeah, of course I will. So I went into the education centre where they were doing the talks, and it was packed, and I was amazed that anybody wanted to come and listen to me blabbering on about making hoods. And I'd never done a talk on my hood making or anything before, and I told the story of my hood making and how I started with my mum's handbag, and that I got the book out of the library and got the pattern from the book, and it all started from there. And it was almost like a train hitting me, that it dawned on me that Philip Glazier, Jemima's father, started the Falconry Centre where I was standing, and I was talking about my falconry journey and where I started, and that book being written by Philip Glazier. And it was like getting hit by a train, and it really choked me up. I couldn't talk. And I just said, excuse me a minute, guys, I've got to get a drink. And I had a drink and composed myself. But it was like a full circle kind of thing. And I was standing in Philip Glazier's, on Philip Glazier's turf, talking about my hood making and my falconry. And it was quite a moment for me, because I never dreamt when I was a kid that I'd one day be standing on the ground of the guy that wrote the book that started me off the first book that it was the only book in the library actually that I could get on falconry, and my hood making and everything. When I was a kid, I couldn't buy a hood. I couldn't go out and get a hood. One, I couldn't afford it, and two, where would I get it from? I didn't, like I say, the internet and stuff like that didn't exist when I was. I'm not that old, but I'm old enough, and it didn't exist at the time. So that was quite a moment for me, sort of talking about my hood making and being stood there. And it's a sad day that when they closed, and that was a bit of a mecca for me, that place. That I always remember the first time that I met Jemima. I was kind of starstruck. Oh my God, there's Jemima Farry Jones, and I had my photo taken with her and stuff, and now I talk to Jemima and whenever I see her and stuff, and we chat about the Eagles and how I'm getting on and stuff, and it's just such a great community to be part of, the falconry world, a small community, but everybody's on the same wavelength, I think, and it's a great thing to be a part of.
It can be.
It can be. Yeah. I mean, every facet of life's got its rogues in it, but
sure.
I've been quite lucky in avoiding those guys, but it's been a great journey so far, and hoping that I've got many years left doing it with my Eagles, and but who knows? We'll see how we go with that one.
Yeah, well, I mean, I'll keep my fingers crossed for you. Like I said, I mean, it sounds like you've had a fantastic life doing something that you love, and that's admirable in and of itself, especially when you get to do it for a career. And no, it's outstanding. I mean, I guess this would also be a good time before we end this to go ahead and ask you the same question that I've been asking a lot of other people, and that do you have a piece of advice or a pearl of wisdom that you'd like to pass on and for future generations or for whoever's listening?
I suppose if I was going to give any advice to any newcomers, it would be look after your bird. Look after it like it's eggshells, like it's still in the egg, and make sure that you treat them with the respect and the compassion that they deserve, because they're not machines. And they're not robots, and they have their off days and their on days the same as us guys. Treat them like they're one of your family. Is how I'd go about it. I mean, I'm sure I'd probably get locked up for being insane if people saw the eagle with me sitting watching TV and stuff, and I sit watching wildlife programs, and my eagle will be sitting there watching a cheetah chasing a gazelle or something, and the gazelle runs off the side of the screen, and the eagle looks around the side of the TV to see where the gazelle's gone, and it's some of the moments that you spend that much time with them, they're part of your DNA. So yeah, if anything, look after your birds and do it properly. Make sure that you learn everything there is to learn, and read books and read as much on it as you can before you get your bird, and get everything in place before you get your bird, and enjoy it. Enjoy what you've got, because in this day and age, who knows how long we've got left doing it. It's my little lad's 11, and he's like, I want to be an eagle falconer when I grow up, Dad. And I'm like, no, you're going to get a proper job. But I don't want him not to be an eagle falconer. But like I say, it's a tough life to do it as I've done it, and you have to make a lot of sacrifices, and it's one of those you've got to be all in. Everything, every breath that you take is falconry. It drives me insane some days, but it's what I am. I don't know what I'd do if it ever ended, or I couldn't do it anymore. God knows what I'd do. But it's one of those things that's completely engulfed what I am, and my eagles are part of me as much as I'm part of them. So that's my little gem of wisdom, would be to look after your birds and do it 100% as good as you can do it.
Perfect. Well, this has been a great talk, and I really appreciate you taking the time to going over there and doing this recording and stuff. And, thanks again to Jose for helping out with this as well. And
like I say, without Jose, I wouldn't be doing it, because as far as technology goes, I am dead in the water, useless. I struggle with my mobile phone, so it's hard work. But,
No worries. Well, go ahead and I'm going to go ahead and hit stop here, but go ahead and stay on and we'll finish up here. And, but yeah, just like I said, take care and best wishes to you. And thanks again for taking the time.
No, thank you. It's been great. It's nice to actually talk and tell my story.
Yeah.
It's like I say, it's in this day and age, it's one of those stories that's a little bit unbelievable that somebody could be doing falconry as a full-time occupation and paid to hunt golden eagles. But it's what I do, and I love it. It's like I say, it's my DNA. So it's what I do. So thank you for having me on.
Yeah, thank you, and hopefully we'll talk again soon.
Great stuff. Thank you.
Thank you.